There's a new build going around for Ezreal, and it's a strange one. Every high elo Ezreal player that I see now has been choosing Duskblade as their mythic of choice, and it's actually not as bad as you think. For the first time in ever as well, tier is not a mandatory item for this Ezreal build, and it's actually really good too. I'll break down why this build is surprisingly good on Ezreal and why it's able to compensate and be stronger than his old build. Let's break it down. If you haven't yet, please subscribe for more content like this. It's free and you can always unsub later if you want. Only 4% of you guys in my audience are currently subbed, so let's get that number up together. Onto the video. In patch 11.3, Ezreal received the buff to his Q's AD scaling to compensate for his overall poor performance so far in Season 11. He's been near the bottom of the barrel in terms of win rates, and his normal builds have made him feel like he does 0 damage. One of his core items, Muramana, has also received a nerf to its additional damage it had on single target abilities and basic attacks due to other champions being able to abuse the efficiency of the item. Being the least offensive abuser yet the most reliant on this item, Ezreal of course took another hit because of this, bringing him down to absolute dogpile win rates. However, even though they only added a 10% AD ratio to his Q, his rain rate has shot up almost 2% with this new build. I've been trying it a bunch in my own games, and I'd have to say it's pretty good. The main thing you'll notice right away with the build is that you can actually deal damage before the 20-minute mark. Normally, Ezreal does next to nothing in terms of damage because he was so reliant on getting the spike from Muramana in order to actually deal anything. But with this build, you literally spike once you get Essence Reaver and a serrated Dirk, meaning that you can control the pace of the game and contribute to fights much earlier in the game. The main engine behind the build is actually less about the Duskblade and more about what Essence Reaver can do for Ezreal. Essence Reaver is one of the 2 Sheen items that doesn't take up your mythic slot and is surprisingly really effective on Ezreal thanks to its Spellblade passive. Compared to all of the Sheen based items in the game, Essence Reaver refunds 3% of your maximum mana every time you proc it. Once you buy the item, Ezreal will usually get around 40 mana back per proc, and the crazy thing that even at its max rank, Ezreal's Q only costs 40 mana. So as long as you hit your Q, you can spam it for free. Your W also provides additional mana sustain, so as long as you're trading around your Spellblade passive, you'll feel like you'll have infinite mana, and you don't even need to build tier anymore. I was a little skeptical at first because Mystic Shot isn't actually able to crit, meaning that you somewhat waste the crit chance that Essence Reaver has, but I honestly think that the item is worth it just for the Spellblade passive and AD alone. Now onto why Duskblade is so good for this build. If I'm gonna be honest, there's almost no mythic that really feels like it's a perfect fit for Ezreal. I don't even think Divine Sunder is that good on him because he wastes a lot of gold picking up an item that gives him 400 health, which could be redirected to damage. Triforce was also repurposed to be more for constant auto attackers like Jax or Fiora, so when this Duskblade build arose as the new star, I was actually pretty surprised because it made a lot of sense. No, Ezreal does not buy Duskblade to be a 1v9 assassin and dive the enemy backline, but it makes really great use of pretty much every other component of the item. Providing 60 AD, 18 lethality, and 20 ability haste, these are basically all of the stats that current Ezreal players are looking for in their builds. Once you pick this bad boy up, your Mystic Shots end up hitting pretty hard, and it's super satisfying as well. The main kicker for the item though is the mythic passive, which gives you 5 additional ability haste per legendary item that you have on top of the 20 that it gives you by itself. And when you pair this with every other good Ezreal item in the game right now, which all have ability haste, you genuinely end up feeling like Earth Ezreal in your games. If you make it to 6 items, you can easily end up with 120 to 130 ability haste every game, equivalent to around 55% CDR. This is what makes the build so crazy. You actually end up feeling even more useful and even more proactive than the old version of Ezreal. You can constantly spam every ability you have in the arsenal, instantly clear waves, constantly have your E available. It can also enable you to randomly spam your ultimate for vision or wave manipulation just because you can, and it's effectively a 30-second cooldown. It also enables you to not play like a little bitch for 30 minutes before you can actually do anything because you're actually investing all of your gold into stats that are going to make you relevant in the game. For a quick rundown of your build, you want to start off with Essence Reaver as your core, picking up Duskblade as a second item. Following up afterwards, you ideally want to pick up Ravenous Hydra as the third item, but there's a lot of different items you can tech into the enemy team. Serylda's Grudge is pretty solid for armor shred, Bork's pretty solid for front to back and shredding your enemy front line. You of course want Executioner's Calling if you want to prevent heal abusers from living in the game pretty much. Options like GA or Silvermere Dawn are really good for survivability as well. I'd probably go Lucidity Boots every game, not only because of how good they are overall, but because of how well it synergizes with the rest of Ezreal's kit. Your rune setup's going to be the same as a normal Ezreal in the game, so basically it's a Conqueror focus with Sorcery secondary, and you want to focus on being able to survive the laning phase to get that sweet spike with your Essence Reaver most of the time. Although the build is certainly wacky and not what I would imagine Ezreal to look like in Season 11, I think it's super fun and definitely worth trying in your own games. Let me know how you guys feel about the build if you try it out, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay fresh.